I rise on behalf of New Zealand First for this Crimes, Theft by an Employer Amendment Bill. There's nothing I've found in this House like employment relations to open up the old fractures between Labor and National and the parties to the left and the right of them. This is the old battle between Capital and Labor, and they are the proxy wars that have gone on in this House probably for close to 100 years between those two parties. This is where New Zealand First brings real value to these debates. We see ourselves as Switzerland. We believe it is the government's role to be a referee. We do believe, and our voting record over time we do believe quite strongly in flexibility in the labour market. We have fought really hard over time for the 90-day trials and supported Minister Veld in this Parliament, and when we were last in coalition with Labor, we fought really hard to keep those 90-day trials for businesses under 20 employees. We also supported, recently we're in the process of supporting the excesses around the PGs, the personal grievances, and try to bring that back into some balance. At our core, our values are that we are an egalitarian party. We believe in fairness, that a fair day's work deserves a fair day's pay. We have consistently championed for rises in the minimum wage when we've had the opportunity to be in coalition negotiations, including in this Parliament as well, although I must admit it's a bit easier when you're in coalition with Labor. They've been a bit more meaningful. But at the very least, the very lowest bar that you should be clearing here is that you should be paid, and you should pay if you're an employer. We have evidence this wage theft and exploitation does happen in this country. And it's not something that we should be proud of, but that's why other jurisdictions also have brought in laws to address this issue. And we know the original proponent of the bill, who it's great to see him here, Abraham Amir, was a victim of such a crime himself. Just a history of our involvement for those that may be tuning in for the first time. We were not in the House during the first reading of the bill. It was in those dark days when New Zealand First wasn't represented in this House in the 53rd Parliament, and we were not represented on the Select Committee. We only had the first opportunity to engage with the bill, Madam Speaker, during the second reading. We did vote it through to the committee, the whole House stage, but we did share some of the concerns of our colleagues on this side of the House that it wasn't tied or strong enough to protect employers that may have genuine cash flow issues or genuine reasons why they might not have been able to make payroll. And so we worked diligently and through an amendment through my colleague Casey Costello in that committee, the whole House stage, to get this bill into a state that we felt we could further consider it. In terms of what we're being asked to do, fundamentally, Camilla Belich, the proponent of this bill, was asking us two key questions. Why do migrant workers here on work visas have the protection of a criminal process when New Zealand citizens and permanent residents do not have that same legal recourse? And why is it a crime for employees to steal from employers and the reverse does not apply? Questions for which New Zealand First is yet to hear compelling answers. That is why we will be using our key swing votes to assist this bill into law. This bill will not criminalise the 99.9% of good, honest employers. All they have to do is continue to do what they do now, pay their wages and their contractual obligations to their employees. But this bill will punish unscrupulous employees that seek to exploit the time and the labour of often vulnerable New Zealanders. Now let's be honest here, most of these are recent immigrants, many of whom come to this country for a better life. Often with English as a second language, often from countries that do not have the same strong labour protections as we do. So it speaks to our values, I think, that we would want to protect these vulnerable workers. And why do they not have, they often do not have the means or the knowledge to go down the civil pathway that is being referenced by colleagues on this side of the House. The other point is that this is a deterrence factor. We are a law and order party. There should be consequences for a crime. We fundamentally believe that. And this bill does provide that deterrence factor. I would like to commend my colleague, Casey Costello. As I said, we did have some concerns about this bill when we kicked it around a little bit, and Casey moved the amendment for part two. But Casey brought a depth of experience to this issue. She had been a trustee of the Migrant Exploitation Relief Foundation prior to coming into Parliament and had represented vulnerable workers. She was also Vice President of the Police Association under Greg O'Connor, I might say. I'm not sure how Greg managed to get in above Casey, but that's a question for the Police Association. But she has represented the police workforce, of course, the police union, essentially. And of course, with 14 years active service in the New Zealand Police, knew the realities and was able to ground truth how the police may interact with this bill and how we could make it clearer for them. So I'd like to thank Casey for that work. But the real congratulations here are to Camilla Belich. Of course, this is a substantive legislative achievement, Camilla. The private members' bills, there's a continuum there or a range, but this is at the substantive end of those bills, I think. So I congratulate you. Thank you very much for your constructive engagement on this bill. I thank you and your team. There was almost a mini select committee going on as we thrash this out, and you're always open-minded to sensible changes. But the real, I guess, hero here today is Ibrahim Amir. I only got the chance to meet you during the dinner break. Your experience was pivotal to this bill. And we talk a lot in this House, and every time you're asked as a politician, why do you want to be a politician? What's to make a difference? And I don't know where your political career will lead you in the future, Ibrahim, but you have made a difference today. It was your experience, and putting that in the biscuit tin, it was an example of Parliament working at its finest. So without further ado, Madam Chair, I commend this bill to the House.
I'm surprised that New Zealand First is supporting this. I mean, that's pretty woke of them. Considering Winston Peters' war on woke.
Remember, my friend Angela McLeod said if there was any MP she could work for, ironically, it was Mark Patterson's, the one she actually would like to work for, as it's the one that she believes she could do the most positiveness in this current term.
Yeah, I really enjoyed working with Mark. To be honest, I haven't worked with many people in New Zealand First. I wasn't in Parliament when we were in coalition with New Zealand First, so I hadn't really had the opportunity, but I found him really open to engaging on this, and I think it was a really good speech that we just watched again. And I loved the fact that he really highlighted the fact that Ibrahim had made a big difference with this bill. It's I think sometimes when you come into Parliament, you think you're happy to be there, but then you realise that actually making the change that is the reason you want to be there is a lot harder than you might have initially anticipated. So for Ibrahim to be able to be in the House to see this become law is really incredible. So I'm very grateful to New Zealand First for their support, and also for the clear way that Mark set that out.
Now, when it came to negotiating the changes, was that with Mark himself, or with Casey, or was that with the caucus?
Yeah, it was with both of them, mainly. I think Mark is the spokesperson for workplace relations matters, and so that's why I originally got in touch with him. But then Casey, as you heard in the speech, has a background working for the Police Association, where she did used to work. So that's basically the police union, and she has a background understanding kind of prosecutions, and also I didn't actually know that until the speech, the migrant exploitation background.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah,
I remember Greg being in the news for years, and then I remember, this is literally, it's like, so there's Greg on this TV, and next minute there's this Greg at Johnsonville Market trying to meet me for the first time. Literally, the second week I just started selling coffee at Johnsonville Market, when he yet hadn't quite become an MP.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, heck, and it's like a very different world of, once you've dealt with the person in person versus seeing them as a spokesperson or something like that.
Yeah, he's taller in person, right?
Yes, but I have to be honest, I'm not sure whether him or I are taller than each other, but we kind of tower on each other.
Right.
But, I'm 6'4", so it definitely does get up there. Yeah, and I think he's around this, I don't know. He's at least 6 foot something. Yeah. Let's get to...
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook.